Okay, so you guys have sent in a bunch of really interesting stuff recently, and it seems like a lot of you are trying to figure out how to be more effective and just get a better handle on your time.
It's a common challenge for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we thought it would be helpful to really dig into some of those resources you shared to kind of pull out the core ideas and maybe give you some actual strategies you can use.
Yeah, give you some tactical things you can implement.
Yeah, exactly. Because who wants to feel like they're just constantly, putting out fires all the time?
Right, just barely keeping up.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of what you guys sent in was centered around this idea of, overcoming procrastination and really maximizing your productivity. And that's where Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog, comes in.
It's a classic for a reason.
Oh, yeah. It's packed with like 21 different principles, all aimed at helping you just conquer that procrastination and like really boost your output.
It's a very practical approach.
It is very practical. And the core concept is all about this frog analogy,
Yeah, like what is that frog exactly?
Well, it's that one task that you're probably dreading the most, that you know you should do, but you keep putting it off.
That sounds familiar.
Right. But it's also the one that's going to have the biggest positive impact once it's done.
Like the thing that will actually move the needle.
Exactly. So the whole book is about kind of shifting your mindset away from just being busy all the time and towards actually focusing on the stuff that gives you real results.
Getting the right things done.
Exactly. So let's just jump right in. The first couple chapters really lay the groundwork, and it all starts with having a clear plan and really knowing what you want to achieve.
That's step one for sure.
Yeah.
You can't really get anywhere if you don't know where you're going.
Exactly. And Tracy really emphasizes the importance of having a definite purpose.
He's actually echoing Napoleon Hill there,
Oh, yeah.
who was a big proponent of that idea.
Right. It's about knowing exactly what you want to accomplish in all areas of your life, not just work.
It's about that holistic view.
Exactly. And he lays out this really straightforward 7-step formula for setting goals.
Oh yeah, let's break that down.
Okay, so the first step is just deciding exactly what you want.
Seems simple enough, right?
Right. But you'd be surprised how many people kind of skip over that part.
They have a vague idea, but not a clear target.
Exactly. And Tracy actually even suggests talking to your boss, if you have one, to make sure your priorities are aligned.
So you're both on the same page.
Yeah, so you're not wasting time on things that aren't really that important.
It makes me think of that Stephen Covey analogy about making sure your ladder is leaning against the right building.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. You could be working so hard, but if you're climbing the wrong ladder, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Effort without direction is wasted effort.
So true. Okay, so once you know what you want, step 2 is to write it down.
And this is where it starts to get real.
Right. It might seem basic, but there's something really powerful about getting it out of your head and onto paper.
It makes it tangible. You can actually see it.
Exactly. Tracy actually makes the distinction between written goals and those that just stay in your mind, he calls the unwritten ones, just wishes or fantasies.
Because they're not concrete yet.
Right. They haven't been solidified.
Okay, so you've defined it and written it down. What's next?
Step 3 is to set a deadline.
Because a goal without a deadline is just a dream.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if there's no deadline, you just kind of push it off indefinitely.
Right. There's no urgency.
Exactly. So that deadline injects that sense of, I've got to actually get this done by this date.
Makes it real.
Okay, so step 4 is about getting organized and really mapping out the path to your goal.
So like a roadmap.
Yeah, he says you got to make a list of literally everything you need to do to achieve that goal.
Every single step.
Yeah, it gives you that bird's eye view of the entire project.
So you're not just overwhelmed by the big picture.
Right, it's about breaking that big goal down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
I like that bite-sized pieces.
And then step 5 is to organize that list into an actual plan.
So like a sequence of events.
Exactly. You figure out what needs to happen first, what comes next, prioritize those tasks.
Put them in order.
Yeah, Tracy even talks about, visualizing this plan, like creating a flow chart or a timeline.
So you can see how all the pieces fit together.
Exactly. So you're not just jumping around randomly.
Okay, so you've got your plan. What's the next step?
Well, step 6 is where the rubber meets the road. It's all about taking action.
Putting that plan into motion.
Exactly. Tracy is really adamant about this. He says even a mediocre plan that's acted upon is better than a perfect plan that just sits on the shelf.
Because execution is everything.
It really is. All those ideas, all that planning, it's meaningless if you don't actually do something.
It's about taking that first step and then the next one and the next one.
Yeah, and then the final step, step 7, is about maintaining that momentum.
Keeping the ball rolling.
Yeah, he says you got to commit to doing at least one thing every single day that moves you closer to your goal.
Even if it's something small.
Even if it's small, just something to keep the progress going.
Because consistency is key.
It really is. It reinforces your commitment and keeps you from getting bogged down.
And what's interesting is that Tracy connects these clear written goals to a whole bunch of positive outcomes like increased motivation, a boost in creativity, and even a reduction in procrastination.
Yeah, it's like setting off a chain reaction.
One positive thing leads to another.
And then he dives into the importance of daily planning, like actually scheduling your day.
So you're not just reacting to whatever comes up.
Exactly. He quotes Alan Lacan, who said, "Planning is bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it now."
I like that.
It's a great quote, and it's all about breaking those really big, overwhelming tasks down into those smaller, more manageable steps.
Like eating an elephant one bite at a time.
Exactly. And he really highlights the power of your mind in this planning process.
So it's not just about logistics.
No, it's about engaging your mental resources, coming up with creative solutions.
Like priming your brain for success.
Yeah, and he also cautions against just rushing into action without a plan.
He actually echoes Alex McKenzie there,
Oh, yeah.
who warns about the dangers of just doing things haphazardly.
Right, because that often leads to wasted effort and frustration.
It's like running around in circles.
Exactly. And here's where Tracy really gets practical. He actually quantifies the value of planning.
Oh, he puts a number on it.
Yeah, he says that spending just 10 minutes planning can save you as much as 100 minutes in execution.
Wow, that's a tenfold return on your time.
Exactly. And he even throws in this little formula, the 6PS. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Catchy.
I know, right? It sounds so simple, but it's so true.
It's common sense, but we often don't apply it.
And then he goes on to explain the system of working with different lists.
So breaking it down further.
Yeah, he talks about having a master list where you capture every single task or idea.
So just like a brain dump.
Exactly. And then from there, you create monthly and weekly lists for more focused planning.
Chunking it down.
Right. And then finally, the daily list where you actually pull out those specific actionable items for that day.
The things you're actually going to work on.
Yeah. And I really like this tip he gives about creating your daily list the night before.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that before.
It's like giving your subconscious mind a head start.
So it can work on those things while you sleep.
Exactly. And you might wake up with new insights or a clearer sense of how to approach those tasks.
And there's also that satisfaction of checking things off your list as you complete them.
Oh, yeah, that visual feedback loop.
It feels good to see progress.
It does. It's a little thing, but it can really boost your motivation.
It makes you feel like you're actually accomplishing things.
And Tracy really wraps up this whole section by emphasizing the 10-90 rule, that investing just 10% of your time in planning can save you 90% of the time in execution.
It's a powerful principle.
It is. It really highlights the importance of being proactive.
Instead of just reacting to whatever comes at you.
Exactly. So we've laid the foundation with goals and plans. Now, how do we actually prioritize all those tasks we've identified?
Right, because not all tasks are created equal.
That's where the 80-20 rule comes in, also known as the Pareto principle.
Ah, the famous 80-20 rule.
I know, right? It's everywhere. And Tracy uses it to really drive home the point that a small percentage of your efforts usually produce the majority of your results.
So it's about identifying those high-impact activities.
Exactly. And he gives some great examples like, 20% of your customers might generate 80% of your revenue, or 20% of your tasks might lead to 80% of your overall value.
It's about focusing on the vital few, not the trivial many.
Exactly. And often there's this one task on your list that's worth more than all the other tasks combined.
That's your big frog.
It is. And the funny thing is we tend to procrastinate on those really important tasks, the ones that will actually make the biggest difference.
It's like we subconsciously avoid the things that will actually move us forward.
It's almost like we're afraid of success or something.
Or maybe we're just drawn to the easy stuff, the things that give us that quick sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, maybe it's a comfort thing. Checking off those little tasks makes us feel productive, even if it's not really moving the needle.
It's a false sense of productivity.
Exactly. And Tracy is very clear about this. Don't get bogged down in those low-value tasks when you still have those big, important ones looming.
Eat the frog first.
Exactly. Okay, so to help us actually do that, he introduces this really practical method called the ABCDE method.
Which is basically a system for prioritizing your tasks.
Yeah, so A tasks are the most important ones. The must-dos, the things with serious consequences if you don't do them.
Those are the frogs?
The frogs. And you can even break those down further into A1, A2, and so on, with A1 being that biggest, ugliest frog of them all.
The one you really want to avoid.
Right. So then you have B tasks, which are things you should do, but the consequences aren't as dire.
He calls those the
I
tadpoles.
know, right? It's a good analogy. And the rule with B tasks is you never do a B task if there's still an A task left undone.
Makes sense. Got to tackle the big stuff first.
And then you have C tasks, which are those nice to do things.
Things that would be nice to get done but aren't really crucial.
Yeah, like checking non-urgent emails or, returning a phone call.
Things that can wait.
And then D tasks are things you should delegate.
Anything that someone else can handle.
Yeah, free up your time and energy for those A tasks.
Focus on your strengths.
And finally, E tasks are things you should just eliminate altogether.
Things that are no longer serving any real purpose.
Yeah, maybe they were important at one point, but not anymore.
So you're constantly refining your list.
Exactly. Okay, so once you've gone through your list and assigned all those A, B, C, D, E labels, the next step is to immediately start on that A1 task.
Eat the whole frog.
Exactly, and stick with it until it's completely finished.
Don't get distracted.
Right. This is where focus and execution come in.
So we're shifting gears now from planning to doing.
Yeah, so Tracy really doubles down on this eat that frog idea.
Like make it a habit.
Yeah, he says do your most difficult task first thing in the morning.
Start your day with a win.
Exactly. And he outlines this whole process. Create your to-do list either the night before or at the beginning of the week, then review that list using the ABCDE method and the 80-20 rule to identify your A1 tasks.
So you're clear on what needs to happen first.
Then gather all the materials you need, clear your workspace of any distractions, and just dive in.
No excuses.
Exactly. And he actually makes this claim that if you do this consistently, you can potentially double your output in a month.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
It's huge. And think about the psychological impact, too. Starting your day by conquering your biggest challenge.
But setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. You'll feel energized and in control.
Like you can handle anything.
And to really maximize that focus,
Yeah.
he introduces this concept of single handling.
Which basically means just focusing on one task at a time until it's 100% complete.
Yeah. No multitasking, no jumping back and forth between different projects.
Just laser focus.
Exactly. And he argues that this can actually reduce the time it takes to complete a task by like 50% or more.
Because you're not wasting time switching back and forth.
Exactly. You're eliminating all that mental re-engagement time.
The time it takes to get back into the flow of things.
And he actually connects this to the efficiency curve.
Oh, yeah. The idea that your efficiency increases the longer you focus on a single task.
Exactly. So task switching actually makes you less productive.
It's counterintuitive, but it makes sense.
It does. And ultimately, it all comes down to self-discipline.
Which is easier said than done.
It is. But Tracy actually quotes Albert Hubbard, who defines self-discipline as the ability to make yourself do what you should do when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not.
It's a powerful definition.
It is. It's about doing the hard things even when you don't want to.
Because that's what separates the successful from everyone else.
Exactly. And he makes a great point about how persisting on a difficult task actually builds your character and your willpower.
It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So you're not just getting things done, you're actually improving yourself in the process.
It's a win-win.
Okay, so we're tackling those important tasks with focus and discipline, but how do we maintain that productivity over time?
Right, because we can't just sprint all the time. We need to be able to sustain this.
That's where continuous improvement comes in.
Always be learning.
Exactly. Tracy is a big advocate for lifelong learning, constantly expanding your knowledge and skills.
Because the world is constantly changing, we need to adapt.
He quotes Pat Riley, who said, "If you're not getting better, you're getting worse."
It's a harsh truth, but it's true.
And he actually frames personal and professional development as a time saver.
Because the more skilled you are, the faster you can get things done.
Exactly. It's like an investment in yourself.
And he also assures us that virtually any skill can be learned.
Yeah, if you're willing to put in the effort.
He even shares a personal story about how he learned to touch type so he could write his books more efficiently.
It's a great example of how investing time in skill development can pay off big time.
And he gives some practical tips for how to do this. Make time for reading in your field, take courses, attend industry events, listen to audio programs during your commute.
It's about being proactive, seeking out opportunities to learn and grow.
And he makes a really interesting connection between increased knowledge and skill and your levels of confidence and motivation.
Yeah, it makes sense. The better you get at something, the more confident you feel and the more motivated you are to keep going.
It's a positive feedback loop.
It is, but it's not just about knowledge and skills, it's also about managing your energy effectively.
Right, because we all have limited energy.
And Tracy points out that your productivity tends to decline pretty significantly after about 8 or 9 hours of work.
So those all-nighters might not be as productive as you think,
Probably not. He really emphasizes the importance of getting enough sleep.
which is something a lot of us struggle with.
It's true. He even suggests aiming to be in bed by 10 p.m.
Wow, that's early for some people.
I know, but think about it. Most of us are probably staring at screens until late at night.
And that's not conducive to good sleep.
Definitely not. And he also recommends taking a full day off each week to completely disconnect and recharge.
Like a true day of rest.
Exactly. And regular vacations, too.
Can't forget those.
And it's not just about rest, it's also about what you eat.
Fueling your body properly.
He recommends a high-protein breakfast to kickstart your day, lean lunches to maintain your energy levels, and avoiding sugar and processed foods.
Which tend to give you those energy crashes.
Exactly. And of course, regular exercise is key, too.
It's good for both your body and your mind.
So we're learning new things, managing our energy effectively. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
It's all about mindset and motivation.
And Tracy really stresses the importance of becoming your own cheerleader.
Like hyping yourself up.
Exactly. Using positive self-talk to encourage and motivate yourselves.
Because our thoughts have a huge impact on our emotions and our actions.
He actually says that 95% of our emotions are determined by how we talk to ourselves.
Wow, that's a big number.
It is so. If you're constantly putting yourself down or focusing on the negative,
You're not setting yourself up for success.
not at all. And he encourages us to use positive affirmations. Things like, I like myself, or I can do this.
It might sound cheesy, but it actually works.
It does. It's about retraining your brain to focus on the positive,
And he also talks about the importance of cultivating optimism.
which is about choosing to see the good in every situation.
It's a choice, not just a personality trait.
Exactly. And he outlines 3 key behaviors of optimistic people.
Let's hear them.
They look for the good in every situation. They seek out valuable lessons, even in setbacks, and they focus on finding solutions rather than dwelling on the problems.
So it's about being proactive and solution-oriented.
And he also connects optimism to thinking and talking about your goals and your vision for the future.
It's about having that positive outlook.
Exactly. And then he introduces this concept of a sense of urgency.
Like not letting things drag on indefinitely.
Yeah, developing a bias for action.
Just
Exactly. And that ties into the momentum principle. Once you get started, it's easier to keep going.
like rolling a snowball down a hill.
And he even suggests using those little verbal cues like do it now or back to work to keep yourself on track.
It's like giving yourself a pep talk.
It is. And ultimately, he says that building a reputation for getting things done quickly and well is invaluable.
It makes you stand out.
It does. People will notice and appreciate your efficiency.
It's a great way to build trust and credibility.
Okay, so that was a pretty deep dive into some really powerful principles for taking control of your time and boosting your productivity.
Lots of great stuff from Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog.
Yeah, and the key takeaway here is that consistently applying these principles can make a huge difference in your life.
Especially that habit of tackling your most important task first thing in the morning.
Eating that frog.
It's not always easy, but the rewards are worth it.
Definitely. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
You don't have to do everything at once.
Exactly. Just pick 1 or 2 principles that resonate with you and start implementing them.
Small steps lead to big changes.
So think about those frogs in your own life. What's that one big important task that you've been putting off?
The one that's been nagging at you?
Yeah, commit to tackling that tomorrow morning.
Eat that frog.
And here's a final thought to ponder as you revisit those resources. What's that one frog that, if you consistently ate it first, would have the biggest impact on your life and work?
That's a good question.
It is. It's something to really think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
All right, see ya.
Bye.